Right? Like once again, if you don't know me, I'm Olivia Denson Thomas, the brand counselor, helping you go from hustling to wholeness in the trust economy. And my lovely, lovely co-host here.
Hello, Samantha Gregory, the Self-Care Alchemist. I'm so happy to be here again with you, Olivia.
I had so much fun last week. It
Yeah.
was enlightening. It
Yes.
was really enlightening. I think a lot of the times we think about perfection. I think we're starting to think about perfection as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the beginning it was just like that was your like what's my greatest weakness interview question
Mm-hmm.
where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm such a perfectionist, so obviously like I'm gonna do everything extremely well. But now it's a little bit more like,
Right.
girl, you might be stopping the flow, you might be the bottleneck. So so I'm so glad we talked about that last week, especially as a founder. I think no one thinks about their perfection as the bottleneck as the founder,
Mm-hmm.
because you're creating something and because you see it as a reflection of yourself, obviously you're trying to pop in and do the best version of it at all times, but sometimes the best isn't the best.
Right. Absolutely. It's not. And it takes courage to even admit that.
Yeah.
Um, we are not, I guess, I'll say we're not, we can't continue to look at our lives in a bottle or on a desert island. We have so many different moving parts in our business, and we got to be clear and ready to accept not just a responsibility for the people who we are employing. If we're employing someone, we can't just take responsibility for the product or the service, but we've got to take responsibility for how we are showing up
Yeah.
and how we are kind of, in the way of some things that could be progressing if we were, honest about our bandwidth or capacity.
Mm, yeah. The honesty is the hard part, which is why we're talking about trust without the
Mhm.
armor today.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times we have the armor of what I like to call being the professional liar, right? Like it's like I am here, I am professional, and you're projecting something that is, I mean, it's not a bad projection. Like
Mhm.
obviously everyone wants to look professional and like well put together. Um, but so often we're taking on this identity that has nothing to do with who we actually are because we don't trust ourselves to show up.
Right.
And it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So like why why does our nervous system convince us, right, that our actual humanity is the threat?
Oh my God, that's such a deep question. A- And a little bit like we talked about last week, the trust factor, the ways that society has told us to dumb ourselves down, to
Mhm.
be less than, to not be too much, not live in our full power, to even tell us that we're powerless.
Yeah.
And I think those are some of the reasons why this happens to us. So, the factor, many factors are contributing to it, and it's not even a lot of times. It's not the call is not coming from inside the house. It's
Mm,
all around us. It's the people outside who are trying to convince you that you're less than, that um, you got to stay within these parameters. You got to show up this way. The gurus tell you, hey, just do just enough, or if you don't do it like me, then you're failing. So
yeah.
it's all these different this noise, this distortion, the distractions that we hear from outside of ourselves, and the voices that say you can't trust your own judgment.
Yeah.
You can't trust your intuition, and we put that on the back burner. And even when we're in true danger, we still can't even trust ourselves to know that this is really danger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just 'cause even what you just said right now, right? Where it's like we have this thing that's telling us to both dumb it down and this thing that's telling us that we're too much, right?
Yes.
Like we're not enough. And it's just like those are conflicting things
Mhm.
where we can't actually live in that because those things are there's no way.
Right.
Like, there's nothing to be if at the end of the day, it's, like, too much and not enough. So, like,
Mhm.
where do I even sit in that? And I mean, I guess, you know what? You have something, I hear you.
I was gonna say, but you notice that these are the messages a lot of women get?
Yeah,
Women get these messages more often than I think than our male counterparts, because men are taught to be bold and fearless and go out there and conquer the world and to, stand on top of the mountain and claim your victory. And the competition, you must always win at any cost. Whereas women are told different things. And
yeah,
we are it's so interesting, the whole dynamic of that and how we are fighting to our way out of that,
yeah,
um, mindset, and
yeah,
so but it's like we're fighting every single day to just show up, first of
yeah,
all. And
yeah,
then second of all, we're trying to show up at excellence because we truly believe in the product or the service that we're offering. We
yeah,
truly want to help people. We truly want to give people quality, but
mm,
at the same time, it's juxtaposed against the don't be too much. Um, and then that's where the imposter syndrome starts to, rear its ugly head.
yeah, yeah. It's so interesting that, that the that this is the message toward women, right?
Yes.
A lot of the time, because the, um I think when we don't actually lean into this idea that we can bring something new or different to the table, we're
Mhm.
stunting our ability to solve the problems that are there. So we kind of
Mhm.
end up in like commodity land
Yes.
and like I personally don't fully understand the benefit of commodity land.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
but if we're looking from of the lens of capitalism,
Mm,
that's where commodity lives. That's where because it's all about profit, it's all about the, what's it called? How much the long-term lifetime value of
yeah.
a client or customer, how much money you can extract from them, and
Mhm,
not really focus on the service that you're providing for them or the product you're providing, the product quality you're providing for them. And
mm,
so that still kind of keeps you in this liminal space of I want to do what my heart is calling me to do, but
mm,
then here's what they're saying in order for me to even be able to make the money to survive and the reason why I'm in business, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so many contradictions that we're wrestling against every single day, that we have to finally put a stake in the ground and say, you know what?
mhm.
This is what it is. This is who I am. These are my values, like real values, not manufactured from somebody else's, list of values and mission and statements and all that kind of stuff that they tell you to write. No, this
Yeah,
is from my heart. This is where I'm living in the truth of who I am. And so the professional liar mask can finally fall off. The any mask that we put on the imposter syndrome can finally slip away when we look back and say, you know what, I've done a lot. I have really, I mean, I started this business,
mhm,
I've created this product, I've come up with this offer, this service. I have spent how many years doing this? That's saying a lot. And
yeah,
I really need to lean into that and not the voices that have done nothing that I've done, have no experience in what I'm doing, and have not really built this business with me.
mm. I love that. I love that. And I think that's the way we begin moving into being like category creators, right?
Mhm.
Because I think the real thing that happens a lot of the time is we have so many different experiences in different places that when we try to bring those layered solutions,
Mhm.
right? Because oftentimes, especially again, as women, right? We are not just working in the office. We are somebody's sister. We are somebody's daughter. We're somebody's granddaughter. And then we're somebody's mother, right?
Mhm.
So we're constantly problem solving in like a variety of arenas.
Yes.
So then when we get back to a new thing to problem solve, which is like business, we
Mhm.
don't actually leave any of those things behind.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like, we're bringing all of that into these spaces so that
Mhm.
now our problem solving becomes, like, four-dimensional, five-dimensional. right? So instead of being the commodity or being able to be the commodity, which
Mhm.
I'm recognizing is kind of an issue for a lot of the founders that I work with. They struggle to be the commodity,
Yeah.
um, and they get very confused.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
you say
especially if I'm sorry, you're getting the message that you're the brand, but
yeah,
you also are like, "Okay, well, what about my niche? What about, what lane am I in?" And
yeah,
that definitely becomes very confusing, I can imagine, with your clients and, with people who are just trying to redefine themselves and rebrand themselves, um, without becoming a commodity, without expending so much energy and so much labor on top of the
yeah,
labor you're already, um, involved in with family and with, this thing or that thing is really challenging to be expected to show up in your masculine energy, but still be in your nurturing feminine energy for all the people who are depending on you.
all the people,
All the people.
all the people, and I think what happens in the long run is we end up looking at the industry. We end up
Mhm,
looking at the solution that they're trying to create and end up creating, like, it just has to be a different category.
mhm.
It has to be something that's just like it's like I don't wanna reinvent the wheel,
Exactly.
and I think there are a lot of points where it's just like, well, you don't. You have to stick to the rules in certain ways, and it's necessary, right? Because
Mhm.
some rules are rules for a reason, and it's important to like learn the rules and figure out how to break the rules, right? But as
Exactly.
you figure out how to break them, like you have to start doing this combination of things and become your own category. So like as you're doing this thing that's introducing something new to the public, right? I think my question is like, what is the biology of trust?
Mhm.
Like, at that point, the voices on the outside are saying, "Hey, you're wrong," right?
Mhm.
Like, I've had an experience like that pretty recently where I said something and somebody was like, "No, that's not how it goes." And and the reality is, you're right, that's not how it goes currently.
Mhm.
But in a concurrent reality, like, for someone else who actually has this problem, who has been waiting for me to say the thing that I am saying, this
Mhm.
is exactly how it goes. So, in a world where you're trying to create something different, where you're trying to, like you said, put your flag in the ground, like, how do you till the ground for yourself so
Mm.
that the flag continues standing?
Wow. I think the word you mentioned was trust, and I think that self-trust is the ground that you begin to till and build and add the nutrients to so that it's fertile for the thing that you're building. But if you are stuck at that place where you are constantly looking outside of yourself for validation, for approval,
Mhm.
for all the things that we are told that we need in order to move forward, to
Yeah,
build this thing, to um, even garner faith from the people that you're serving, whether it's your clients, whether it's coworkers, customers, anyone who is looking to you for a solution, then you are going to continue to short circuit yourself. You're going to
yeah,
second guess yourself. And so building that fertile soil for trust starts with self trust. It starts with let me evaluate, let me audit who I am, what my belief systems are, what my values are, and how I even want to show up. How do I want to feel every single day? Because if we are in our head so much and thinking about this is what the textbook said, this is what the industry said, these are what the government regulations say. All
yeah,
those things are important, like you said, knowing the rules, but being able to bend them, mesh them around your own identity is, I think, the missing link.
mm,
We can know all these things, and those things cause us to be a version of ourselves, I suppose.
yeah.
But the true self underneath all of that has to at some point rise up and be confident that showing up authentically as myself is acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Whether it's acceptable to you or anyone else, it doesn't matter. And granted, it could mean, well, I'm going to lose a customer, I'm going to lose a collaborator, I'm going to lose someone who I respected, maybe. But then what are you going to gain? Because people are finally seeing the true you. They're finally seeing a person who trusts themselves enough to use their voice, to use their platform, to use their product or service to be able to solve for a problem that people really want. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that you are serving and you are showing up for, because they need what you offer.
Yeah.
They are the ones that are putting their money on the line, on the table, and saying, yes, you are the one I want to talk to. You're the one who I feel confident, who can trust, that I can trust, um, to solve the problem that I have. And then they start referring you, and then they start talking about how great the experience was with you. And so I think those are the building blocks
Mhm.
for creating this type of dynamic that you're wanting to shift into, and releasing the mask, releasing the label that I'm a professional liar and that I can't show up fully as myself.
I love that, and even mentioning, like, the people that
Mhm.
you actually can serve,
Yeah.
right? Because I carry this theory that, like, someone's looking for you,
Mhm.
and they're looking for you doing the thing that you do in the textbook way.
Yeah.
The thing is done well. It's done in
Mhm.
the most textbook way possible, but the packaging of the thing is is you in
Yes.
reality.
Mhm.
And I know, like, a lot of us cover the you
Mhm.
because of hurts,
Yeah.
right? Because of things that have been, just hard to shake, whether it's been, like, inborn or a teacher
Mhm.
or familial or just, whatever, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm kind of wondering about, like, systems of repair.
Mhm.
So, I think Esther Perel says that relationships are built in repair.
Mm.
Right? And I
Mhm.
think that's so beautiful because, obviously in the perfection, things look good. But
Sure.
in the repair portion, you kind of like um, learn how to trust differently for
Mhm.
whatever the moment actually is. So I mean, how how does one repair to trust their own voice?
Mm. Yeah. A lot of shadow work, I think.
Mm,
Because you are literally carrying years and years of baggage from experiences that you've had that cause the distrust, that cause the issue or the problem that you're trying to repair. Um, again, like last week, we talked about being around a community of people who are also on this journey or this path, so that you're not feeling so isolated and alone. And I
yeah.
think that's where you start to give up, because it's like, well, nobody understands, nobody cares. I'm just struggling in this by myself. But when
Mm,
you're able to get into a community, it doesn't have to be large and overwhelming with 50 people. It could be 2 people, 3 people who you recognize as having a similar kind of issue, and who are willing to be honest enough to talk it through
mhm,
and come up with solutions. And so whether you have like a mini book club where you're reading books about how to heal these certain parts of yourself, or if you're practicing different somatic exercises together, or whatever the modality that you use, being in community definitely accelerates the process, I think. And people, I'm a push through kind of person. I've been that kind of person. I've researched, I learn, I become obsessed with that thing for the moment, so that I can really know it, not just believe it, not
yeah,
just think about it, but I know that this is a shift that I want to make, the change that I want to make. And I have the ability to make that change because I'm still looking at my history. And even though it was kind of messed up for a while, I still recognize my persistence, my go-getter attitude. Especially as a founder, we have like tenacity. We're going to do the thing. We're going to make it work. And I think this is just an important part of that formula, to heal the part of yourself that has been stuck in a I can't trust myself. I don't know exactly how to be myself
Mm.
without offending someone, excuse me, without making other people feel uncomfortable. So we have all these narratives and stories that we have not just experienced in real life, but we kind of it's exaggerated. Excuse me, too. So I think those are key points.
Awesome. Please, like, take care of yourself. Trust yourself. I think, I think for me you good? Okay, good. Um, I think for me, one of the things I had to learn how to do was, trust myself privately and then begin learning to trust myself publicly. Um, I think in a way, I had to one of the first things I had to do was define my mission, vision, and values. I think I'd been living in other people's for ever. Like, I don't even know what else to say about that. Like, I came into the world living in somebody else's mission, vision, and values, which is very normal for all of us, obviously, because we are born to people, we are in communities, we are in certain spaces that tell us that this is what appropriate should look like. This is what performing properly should look like. So in those spaces, and it's not that the things are bad, it's just that they are so concrete already because there are people who have been living this for so long that they now believe that this is the way to go. So it's like learning how to actually both define and utilize that scoreboard of your own mission, vision, and values privately. And then eventually building the confidence, right? So confidence is the ability to confide in yourself. You're going to show up for yourself. You're going to do it to do it in public, right? Because now it's almost like rejection therapy. Like you want to be exposed enough that somebody can say, "Hey, this is great," or "Hey, this like isn't so amazing." And at that point, it doesn't necessarily um, it's not as much the persistence as the consistent, right? Like you're more consistent in showing up in the machinery of what you have to do so that it can create the magic of like the trust. And I think that is something that like, it's hard to practice, but it's so valuable because once you actually know yourself and once you can actually convey that self to other people, you can bring those people in who are who are looking for you beyond the armor. Now how would you say I think going beyond the armor gives you authority. I think it gives you credibility. I think it like raises the standard of what's like possible and doable. Um like how do you train your nervous system to be safe in that exposure and that vulnerability? Like now you're visible, now you're vulnerable. And it's important to be those things. But now you have to actively bring yourself into a place where you are preparing, and then you're like giving aftercare, like for all of these different like points of exposure. Like it's just entirely too real. So like what does it look like um to train the nervous system, right? Like we're in the gym. We are in the gym. Like, what does it look like?
Wow, that's a good question. Excuse me, everybody. It
Please do,
is,
MJ.
yeah. um, I think it's a daily decision.
Mhm,
Like every morning, excuse me, I get up. I don't, I would say meditate. I do kind of meditate, but I'm pouring into myself first
mm,
and giving myself the safety first. Excuse me. And by doing that, I'm kind of armoring myself through softness,
mm,
self acceptance. Um, what else? Just joy, those things that make you feel like yourself, that place where, because I think self acceptance is key,
Yeah.
because it definitely opens the door for anything is possible, and I can do anything I need and want to do in this moment.
Yeah.
So your nervous system calms down. It says, okay, we're good, because we accept that we have limitations. We
Yeah.
accept that we have strengths. We accept that we have the ability to say no to things that does not serve us, that do
Yeah.
not serve us, and that makes us feel threatened. And I think even the trusting the intuition also is another factor that helps your nervous system calm down. And if you're doing this every day, if excuse me, asking yourself the questions every day: how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? Is it okay for me to pull back if this is not working for me? And what can I do in its place? So those are the boundaries, the permission that we give ourselves in the day to day, um, I guess, prep time.
Okay.
Because it's prep.
Yeah.
You're preparing yourself every day. Sorry about that.
Oh,
But yeah, it's the prep time every morning. And at the end of the day, it's the decompression time in the
mm,
it's the let's recap. How did it go? How did you feel? What would you do different? No judgment. And I think that even that no judgment is there. If when you start to make that a part of it, you then become more solid. Your nervous system starts to say, okay, we're safe here now. We don't have to struggle. We don't have to fight. We don't have to be always in this freeze or fawn state,
mhm.
because we have created this environment for ourselves at the beginning of the day,
Yeah.
and now we can operate not at 100. I'm never at 100 because it doesn't work for me. But you
Yeah.
find out what does work for you. What percentage can you give? What percentage do you want to allow? And then go from there.
So you said 2 things that kind of, like, stuck out to me, right? So permission for intuition.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's huge because I don't think we necessarily have, like, a protocol. I'm a
Right.
protocol person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need scripts because
Yes.
it it just helps me to make sense of, like, life, and I'm the kind of person that says, like, "Alright, well, this is my limiting belief, like, this is the actual truth. This is how I, kind of, like, put that in repetition, so I begin believing this versus
Hmm.
this," right? So to me, that feels like a permission for intuition, but you also said something, about fawning.
Hmm.
So, I don't think a lot of people actually know what fawning is, and kind of that it's almost like a uniquely almost uniquely, I'm gonna say it that way, um, like, woman nervous
Yeah.
system response.
Hmm.
Like, we know fight, we know flight, and we know freeze, but fawn is it's so different
Hmm.
because we're trying to figure out how to fit in
Right.
at that point. So can you explain to the people what fawn, like, looks like?
Mm. It looks like people pleasing. If you have no other reference, I would say people pleasing. It's the accommodating for other people at the expense of yourself,
Yeah.
expense of your feelings, um, making other people's convenience more important than yours.
Mhm.
That's how I would describe fawning.
Yeah, yeah, and that's huge, and I mean, like, how do you build a business on that, right?
Right.
Because in your 24 hours,
Hmm.
um, how much of that time do you really have to spend people pleasing?
Right.
And obviously, as a woman, like, there is this there's this natural, I'm not gonna say natural, I'm gonna say there's this common idea that if you're not, like, amenable, if you're not, like, kind or nice,
Nice.
moreover, it's nice,
Mhm.
then you're rude, you're mean, like,
Mhm.
you're, I get feisty all the time, which pretty much just means feisty, which, good times. Um, how do you kind of prepare yourself for that, right? Because there is a version of you, like, when you're learning to trust yourself,
Mhm.
where you are becoming more kind. Like,
Mhm.
you are giving where things need to be given, of course, but that doesn't mean you're going to overpour,
Sure.
especially when you don't have it. So, how do you kind of prepare for the responses that other people have to your boundaries of trust for yourself?
Mm. That's big. That's the hardest part, I think, because when you're no longer accommodating other people's feelings,
Hmm.
when you're no longer being convenient for them, at
Mhm.
your own expense, you do become a villain in a sense. And I
Yeah.
think you just gotta embrace it. Embrace your villain era and just allow it to be what it is, because at the end of the day, if that person is not who you want to be like, if
Yeah.
that person is not who you want to work with, if that person or people are not willing to celebrate you for who you are, then continue to be the villain in their story while you're the hero in your own,
Yeah.
so that you no longer are dumbing yourself down or diminishing your value at the so someone else can feel comfortable. And I
Mm.
think that is the space you have to land in. It's incremental. It's not a immediate thing. And if it is, great for you. I love that. I do. And I even encourage it. Sometimes you got to cuss a few people out, because they're getting out of pocket, as they used to say. So when you're in making your transition, you have to even get to the point where you're willing to say, you know what, I cannot allow anyone else to overrun my life or
Mhm.
my business and
Mhm.
make me feel guilty or shame for being me.
Yeah.
And that when if that's happening, here's what I'm going to do. You mentioned protocols or scripts. Here's what I'm going to say. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
That's not in my agenda for today or ever. How about never? Is never soon enough for you? You have to kind of come up with your own little quips, your scripts, your whatever it is, and you have to decide it ahead of time, because when you're in the middle of it, that fawn will kick in real quick.
It will.
And so you have to be able to say, "No, ma'am. I'm big on no, ma'am. No, sir. That does not work for me." And I have a lot of fire. I'm feisty. I've had the what they call the resting bitch face for most of my life. I've been called mean. I've been called all kinds of names. And it used to bother me, but now I lean into it because then I know that my boundaries are clear.
Mm.
I'm not going to have any. My policy is no one is going to stress me out, period.
Yeah.
You know, and if they do, they got to go. That's my clear boundary. It is
Yeah.
like, you are not going to stress me out, because I know how fragile my body and my health is when it comes to stress. And
Yeah.
so if you are causing me stress, anxiety, even anger, you have to go.
Mm.
I'm not a big confrontation person, but I'm a cut you off person, and I will never talk to you again person. And people say, "Oh, that's so mean." Oh, I don't care, because my health, my nervous system means more to me than pleasing them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm just saying. You have to kind of decide ahead of time and practice in the mirror. Really practice. If some you have a scenario you remember and it's keep playing over and over in your head, you need to practice in the mirror and your response. Don't be reactive. I just have a response for you, and my response is, "You're out of here. You guys to go." No, that doesn't work for me. We can renegotiate some things if we need to. If you're willing to be in a mutually beneficial relationship with me,
Mm.
business or personal. But if you're not, then I don't need to have you in my life, because you're causing a lot of issues and pain for me. And I just can't abide by that anymore.
I love that. I love that because that ability to kind of make that boundaried separation is what's important in making you an authority,
Mhm.
right? Like having the ability to say like I have this specific job. So there's a book that I love called The Courage to Be Disliked. It
Mm.
is one of my favorites, and it's really about this idea that each person has a job that they are uniquely equipped to do.
Mhm.
But the reason other people tend to dislike is because, they have this idea of their own job. And instead of deciding to just live it, work it in a complementary kind of way, they're almost looking for you to be the same, to reflect that they are doing well,
Mhm.
right? If you believe this job is your job too, then obviously I'm doing the right thing. So it's just kind of this idea that like people tend to carry if it's unchecked, this like inferiority
Mhm.
complex or superiority complex, which is
Mhm.
essentially the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, but if you are walking in your trust, you can walk in authenticity and authority.
Yes.
Like you don't have to lean into doing someone else's job to make them feel good.
Mhm.
Like you don't have to stay in the places where people are saying, "Well, you're supposed to be like me, you're supposed to do like I do." Because frankly, it's not even like a complimentary view of life. Like it
Mhm.
actually leaves room for a problem to be solved because now someone's not doing something they're supposed to be doing, which is like crazy.
Mhm.
So like ultimately, I think the goal is for us to be kind, to be so kind to people that we do reject them and that we do accept rejection from them as well. I think that is actually a kindness.
Yeah.
Like we can't be everything to everyone and vice versa.
Mhm.
Um, and it leads for us to be able to be seen and heard and felt by people who are like really looking for the job that we can provide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree 100%, and I think it's so important to make those distinctions,
Mm,
as you're learning them. And I because it's easy to say early on, but early on you don't really know. But as
right.
you're learning about it, you can start making those distinctions, and you can. I think this gives an opportunity to invite the right people into your life and to release the ones that don't need to be there, who
Yeah.
can't further your goals, who can't elevate your purse, who will be a distraction, because oftentimes those people are more distracting and distorting the reality that you want to live in more than anything. And it's time for them to go. But
Yeah.
you gotta remember, people come in what for a reason, a season, maybe a lifetime, but you got to recognize those reason and season people and say, hey, this is not a lifetime arrangement, and you got to go. And it's not a mean thing to say. It's like you said, it's a very kind, emotionally mature thing to do, so that you can further the purpose that you're on this planet for to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a founder, that matters.
Hmm.
Like, you can't be dragged by the market. I
Right.
think that's the thing that tends to happen, especially if you're going for, funding,
Hmm.
venture capital, or just, any money from somebody else who now has a say in the thing that you're building, which is a big deal, right? Like, if you're going to invite someone into your business, they have to have an understanding of the impact of the job, of the thing you're really going for, so that you're not just, again, you're not just a commodity, you're not just an opportunity for them to get on board with,
Right.
but you're somebody or something that is carrying a mission
Hmm.
and a vision that you really want to propel
Right.
forward, and
Right.
not just like, here's an exit. This is great. Like
Hmm.
we want an exit, obviously. Like if that's the vision, like we want the exit. We want, we want the buyout. We want the M&A. Um, but we don't want it at the cost of the integrity of what the business is actually supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, man, the things. Um, Ultimately, I think the goal, especially for founders, is to be able to build a movement, right? So
Hmm.
something that you no longer have to like carry directly. Um, and I think if you are an originator, right? So somebody who has an idea it's just a set of values that you want to carry into the world,
Mhm.
um, it's important to be able to like release yourself from the center of the work,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
To be able to like trust yourself enough to convey the messaging
Mhm.
and hand it off to someone else to then take it on.
Right.
Like, I think that a lot of times it's very hard for people to delegate because they don't trust themselves.
Mhm.
Um, so like how do people prepare for having teams to like actually extend their vision through other people? Like how do you trust yourself enough? How do you learn to trust yourself enough so that you can trust other people?
Well, I tend to put my technical writer hat on and my process hat on when we talk about this part because it's about documenting what it is that you do, what your company stands for, vision, mission, goals, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But the process, your own thinking, documenting that even so that the people who are being trained by you, who are being mentored by you, they understand what it is that you are, the results you want to bring.
Mm,
Um, and having those protocols in place, those SOPs in place, the standards in place, where people can refer back to them. They can, especially if there's a product involved, they're going to do it exactly the way this should be done based on the standard because this is how you've done it thousands of times, and the quality needs to remain the same. I'm putting my quality hat too. All those things need to remain the same so that the customer who purchases it always has the same type of product, even a service, because those two can be documented and put into an SOP so that the quality of service is always the same or better. So I
yeah.
think that's like the core or the foundation for how to create a company and an environment where your legacy will continue forward without you being actively involved.
Mm,
So it's that from a practical standpoint is what I would say. And then teaching your own team also. Trust yourself. I trust you. I trust myself first, but I also trust you to
yeah.
follow the guidelines that I've given and reward that so that it's not everybody fighting in like a Hunger Games type situation where you're fighting for scraps, you're fighting for survival in this company, and you're making it harder to even live and thrive. So I think that it's two faceted,
Yeah.
or two elements of it that you want to make sure you have in place, so that you're no longer being the bottleneck. You're
Yeah.
not being the one who's called at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because the level of service agreement says everything should be up for 24 hours and something's gone wrong and now they need you to be solving this problem. No, ma'am, you just need to have all those things documented. You need to know, here's you know level 1, 2, or 3 service so that we can resolve the issue without me having to be called in.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I feel like a lot of times the bottleneck is it's it's decentering the founder.
Hmm.
Like, it's hard to decenter someone who will not document who will not document and create, like, infrastructure around what is supposed to be happening and, like,
Hmm.
what's acceptable governance
Yes.
for each scenario.
Hmm.
Right? And I think a lot of times, like, some founders will go into it for the sake of validating themselves personally for, like, whatever version of themselves, needed to have the pat on the back, right? Like,
Right.
business is oddly a great place for that.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say to the founder who, like, is realizing, like, like, I actually started this for self-validation, but
Hmm.
I wanna transition to having an understanding that I can be the inspiration, but not the center.
Mm, mhm. I think like you mentioned, I think the role in your own mind has to shift from I'm the superstar to I'm the visionary.
Mm,
I'm the one who does it all to the one who inspires it all.
mm,
So I think making those mental shifts and then walking in that authentically is the way to start to shift how your viewpoint and the purpose for why you started this business.
mhm,
If you are people centered, if you are mission centered, then be that. Allow that to evolve naturally. Be more involved in inspiring people, setting the vision and the tone, and allow your contractors, your employees to implement that for you. And then quality check it in the beginning, but empower them to even quality check themselves
mm,
so that you're again no longer being the center of the business, but you are I don't like house band, the visionary founder who is looking after and protecting the business, not
mm.
having the business to be protected from you and your ego.
I love that. I love that. So I am hearing that you need to have systems of belonging. I'm hearing that you need to have an understanding of separating the ego from the work.
Mhm.
I'm hearing that you have to have standards for operation, obviously the general rules, but also the governance in like different capacities, what needs to happen. And I'm also hearing celebration. So like one of my favorite, values, I have 3 that kinda keep popping to mind right now. It's like celebration, education, affirmation.
Mm, mhm.
Um, I noticed you said that as you hand things off to other people, like, when they do the right thing, celebrating
Yeah,
them.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that creates more like a good trust dynamic
Mhm.
as well.
Absolutely. Because everyone is motivated by something,
Yeah.
um, whether it's a paycheck, whether it's affirmation or adoration or, um just acknowledgement.
Yeah.
A lot of people are motivated by various things, multiple things. But if you're able to celebrate them, not just with a paycheck, but with, I recognize you, thank you, with gratitude, then it goes a long way. And not just that, but rewarding them with more trust,
Mm,
promotion, as well as allowing even their ideas to be implemented as part of whatever the product or service you're offering because people want a stake in what they are a part of so that they're not just well because a lot of idea people are out there they're like hey this would be great a great idea to add this line or add this offer it would be a great idea to recognize the customer in this way have a customer celebration week, along with employee celebration week, so that everybody feels connected to the vision, connected to the company in
yeah,
a way that's more tangible and less transactional.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. It's like it's operationalizing trust.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah, yeah, and it's transformative because it's just hard coded into the business.
mhm.
Yeah, you get to
Absolutely.
continue to grow and change and actually be acknowledged, um, and attributed. So
Mhm,
one of the big things that I always kind of think about, especially again as women in workplaces or women coming from workplaces and building something new, is like we often kind of uh, get put into the mind meld.
mhm.
So it's like you say a thing and suddenly it's everybody's idea because we're
Yep.
all like we're all executing on it together as
We're a
opposed
family.
to we're a family as opposed to getting attribution, right? And like
Mhm.
the attribution, it doesn't even necessarily have to come with like, oh, there's more money or more this or more
Sure.
that. But just like the fact that you did something and you can say it is so important. So even that's what I'm hearing from what you're saying, right? Where it's like we have to make sure that the people who are contributing, the people who are, again, originating on the inside of the thing that we are originating, are still getting attribution, getting seen as contributors to this thing, to this mission that we're building. And honestly, like, that's how we get to go from that's one of the ways that we get to go from, like, hustling to wholeness, right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
because when we're hustling, we're kind of moving for the money, for the validation. We're moving to beat the market,
Sure.
constantly moving to beat the market.
Mhm.
And like, there's nothing wrong with understanding the measurements in the market, right? Like, obviously, that's extremely important.
Mhm.
But I feel like everything we're really talking about is fuel for the fight.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. For
yeah,
sure. But I think it's so, as we're, shifting from I don't say old models, but kinda, yeah.
yeah.
And I think humanizing yourself again
Mm,
is important, because that's where the authenticity lies. That's where the, um, armor Imma call it the armor of authenticity, so that you no longer, um it's not a mask anymore, but it's like, this is the truth of who I am. This is the transparency with which I want to operate as a
mhm,
founder. And this is where our company can also build more trust, because people see us. They don't see a version, a whitewash or veneer of who we are.
yeah,
This is the truth about who we are. That doesn't mean you just expose everything about who yourself, but the heart you have for people, your clients, for your customers, for your employees and contractors. You really have a heart for them, and you're showing that, not through a lens of an expert or a regulation or a book or whatever, but just
mhm,
really truly through the reasons why you started this, whether um, you loved it from the start, or
yeah.
you loved yourself from the start a little bit too much, and you're shifting and changing. But at the end of the day, it is about your heart being on display for the company, for the people, for everyone who just comes in contact with what you're building.
I love it. I love it. It kind of makes me think of how we're accelerating in an AI augmented world.
Mhm.
And it's kind of easy to get lost in the idea of, like, we can produce faster because we have AI.
Mhm.
But the ability to sorry, I'm, like,
Mhm.
losing my train of thought. The ability to hold on one second,
Mhm.
actually.
If anyone in the chat who's watching has a question, definitely drop it in the chat. Would love to answer your questions. We have been going on and on, but if you have a thought, if you have a question, you can drop it in the chat so that we can have a bit more engagement with those who are watching. But as we mentioned at the end of the day, it's all about your heart. It's all about your humanity shining through, so that you're no longer driven by this false front or this mask that we're forced to wear in our business and society, and giving your nervous system space to expand beyond just what I can manage at home. But you're able to go out into public. You're able to manage in your business. You're able to shine and thrive in all of these different spaces, because you set your boundaries and you made decisions every single day, and you wake up and you um, put on your armor of authenticity, because you made yourself safe. You made yourself available to yourself first, and filled up your cup, so that when you're out there or talk on calls, or when you are networking, or whatever it is you're doing for yourself and your business, you can now hold the space for yourself and for others who may come into the space, um, and be an extraordinary or have an extraordinary experience in life, and whoever comes into your space can have an extraordinary experience with you as well. um, any questions? But also, just for those who may not know who I am, Samantha, the Self-Care Alchemist. I am a tech wellness consultant, and I also do some business coaching and consulting as well. And I love talking with people, especially women who are at the point of overwhelm, burnout, and they are looking for, I don't know, kind of an escape plan, a burnout escape plan, or they're looking to break up with burnout so that they can show up fully and authentically in their business. So check out my newsletter, Self Care Oasis. That's where you can come and get more of this. And I also offer one-on-one mentoring. So we're back with Olivia.
Listen, life be lifing because,
Life is life.
obviously when you're playing all the different roles,
Mhm.
interruptions happen. So thank you for your patience, everyone. Seriously. So I think my question was around using trust to allow yourself to use AI.
Mhm.
I think right now a lot of people are scared
Yeah.
because AI is coming and it's frankly here, and they
Mhm.
feel that it's going to take the positions that they have. But I kind of have a theory that when you allow yourself to trust yourself, you allow yourself to explore how it can augment you,
Mhm.
right? Because then you can do the things you're doing faster, more thoroughly, more fully, right? So how do you kind of like emotionally prepare yourself for technology changes
Mm.
or for things that can expand you that might feel a little bit scary?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. You can use it, like you said, to augment your work, your processes that we talked about earlier, when you're ready to, or you wanted to prepare yourself for handing over your business and the legacy to someone who can take it and really do something even more amazing with it. Whether it's documenting your steps, documenting your programs, and making sure that it's all on paper, as it were. And then the other side of it is using it as I don't say juxtaposition to the AI driven companies, but differentiating yourself as a heart centered, authentic, we're here and we're not going to change company. So people can actually see a human, see you being available, involved, and um, still a visionary, and your voice being the real voice that's put forward, not an AI voice.
I
So I
love
think,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think right now the term AI slop is becoming very, very common because people are inputting, what is it? Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right. Exactly.
Like people are kind of inputting things that really don't have value or just like understanding from their part, and they're just
Mhm.
trying to like, figure things out in a way that doesn't really apply to something that they really care about. So
Right.
I love you saying that where it's like, well, if we are heart first and AI augmented, then we can become something that people can trust. People can
Right.
engage us knowing that we're not just utilizing this tool that doesn't really have like a heart or a soul or
Mhm.
even context. It has a lot of information, which is
Mhm.
amazing, like, it's my research assistant, that's my girl, right?
Mhm.
But, like, it doesn't have the context to know how to apply
Right.
certain information, so at the end of the day, like, it can help me to get somewhere, but just not all the way.
Mhm. Exactly. And I think it's really important to understand that it is a tool. It is not the end all be all. It is simply a tool to use, and to leverage for, like you said, your research, for ideas. Maybe I'm an idea person, so I don't really need it for a whole bunch of ideas, maybe to kind of expand things.
Yeah.
But it is not the business. You are the business. And, by moving in that space in that way and letting people know, hey, there are real people behind this. There's a real person and a personality, and we love for you to be a part of the experience of being, with our company. So it's really important to start differentiating that, and I think even spotlighting that, because
Yeah.
people are looking for humans on the other side of the screen and not a robot.
Awesome. Awesome. Sam, I love talking to you.
Same, Olivia.
As always, this has been amazing. I'm sure you already shared where we can find you on the internet, but where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah. So you can find me on Substack, of course. Just go to my profile at Samantha Gregory, and then also my publication is the Self-Care Oasis. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Samantha Gregory, YouTube at Samantha Gregory. So and even TikTok. So I'm on Miss Samantha Gregory, MS Samantha Gregory on TikTok, and I have lots of wonderful tools available for you when you go to those spaces. And if you just, if you want to tap into this very human founder, I would love to connect with you on any of those platforms.
Awesome. Awesome. And as for me, I am everywhere as the brand counselor. If you subscribe to my Substack, you will see videos like this, but also daily calibrations, questions to help you better understand yourself and your business, because we are going for wholeness, not just the hustling. And we're here for the flourishing, honestly. So once again, guys, I'm so happy to have you in the room with us. Sam, you are amazing, and I can't wait to see you next week. And same to all of you. Have a great day,
Mhm.
guys. Stay intentional. Keep flourishing.
See you.
Bye.